All right, gang. In studio with us today, we have the ever debonair, muscular, great-haired, smells nice. I'm out of things to describe you, Brody. We have my friend Brody Clark of Young Life of Fargo-Moorhead. So good morning, Brody.
Good morning.
Brody, two things to talk about today. The first thing I want to talk about is Young Life. I love Young Life, but I don't think a lot of people know about it. So if you were to describe Young Life to the average Joe Schmo on the street, what would you tell him?
I would say that Young Life is a place for kids to belong. It's adults reaching out to high school kids, giving them an area of their life where they know that there's a caring adult that really wants to invest in their life.
Young Life is rooted in faith, right? It's an outreach essentially of Christian people trying to connect kids to make sure that they feel loved where they're at, right?
That's right.
And is in fact trying to be a feeder program for churches and that sort of thing.
That's right. So we want to target the kids who are either disengaged or disinterested in church. And so maybe they've been a part of church before, and maybe they graduated from church and think that church is for those times where you just have to learn all that stuff so you can be confirmed. Or maybe they've never heard about Jesus before, and we want to target all of those kids. We want to make sure that they hear the message of hope in Jesus, and we want to make sure that they have someone an adult in their life who's investing in them personally.
Well, I love a couple of things besides good food and forehead shine. What I love, Brody, is I love Jesus and I love caring for kids. And that's how you and I actually met, is years ago. We were both youth ministers at different churches in town. And
right.
Now you find yourself officing out of the Hatch Realty building.
I do. It all comes back around.
It does. We have some extra space. And so we decided that we want Young Life to be a part of the Hatch Realty world. And so you do what's called Club every Monday. What's Club?
Club is a party with a purpose. And so it's loud music. It's lots of games. It's time for kids to come from all different high schools around our community and to get together, to have a good time, and then to hear a message of hope.
Absolutely. And you guys rock and roll at Hatch Realty every week.
That's right. Monday nights at 7:57.
It's so fun because sometimes we'll have client consults or other things happening in office, even at 7 or 8 o'clock on a Monday night, and they get to see the chaos that Young Life brings. And it's so fun, such an eclectic energy.
That's right. We love having a good time, and we love being loud, and we love having a place like Hatch Realty to host that.
Yeah, man. Here's the great thing is, Brody, as Young Life has taken part, you've gotten to know a lot of our staff outside of just me. And you and your wife, Lindsay, decided, hey, it's time to upgrade our house. It's time to get a new place. And so you actually, and just a couple of weeks ago, sold your house and closed on a new place. What was that like? Because we're talking two sides. We have you as a buyer and you as a seller, and I think there were different stories.
They are, and it was a very interesting experience. We had lots of opportunities.
That's such a layered word. Interesting. If someone's like, Brody, you're really interesting, that's another way to say.
They say that a lot.
Yeah.
But we had, lots of layers to that. Even the day that we were closing, that week was just crazy because it was right next to Giving Hearts Day, which is really big for Young Life and just this community. So there were lots of different variables that were in play that week.
So let's talk about the buy side first. You worked with an agent on our team named Mark Headland, and you and Mark are CrossFit buddies. And
That's
so
right.
You're beefier than most, and not as angry because you lift heavy things all the time, and you get that rage out. And so you worked with Mark, and buying you had a price range. How many houses do you think you saw before you fell in love with your new pad?
Well, my wife loves to look at things, and so Zillow was a very frequented site.
I'm sure her employer really appreciates that.
But she looked at a lot of houses. I didn't look at so many. We probably visited 3 or 4 before we found the one that we ended up with.
And that's so the average buyers look at homes for 10 to 12 weeks until they find the one that they commit with. And understand how many hundreds of houses you look at online. How long was the process for you until you found the one?
Probably 2 or 3 months.
Okay, so yeah, you were about average, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fascinatingly, Brody, is the house that you bought, you got a screaming deal on, didn't you?
We did.
Tell me about that. Tell me, it was listed for how long when you guys found it?
When we found it, it was probably around 60 or 70 days.
Okay, and so the average home in the Fargo-Moorhead area actually sits for about 60 to 70 days. So again, average. But the average home in Fargo sells for about 97% of the asking price. You saved how many thousands of dollars in your negotiation?
I don't even know. Probably 20 or 30.
Yeah, and you didn't buy like a $500,000 or $600,000 house.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. If you did, I want to get into the ministry again because that's pretty kick butt. Instead, you saved over. Let me do my quick math. You saved about 8% on the asking price.
Probably.
And it had just been reduced when you found it too.
Mm-hmm.
It had been reduced like 8 to 10% of the asking price. So you got all in all a savings of like 15 to 20% on your house. That's a big deal because that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, my wife likes to shop on sales.
Okay.
So that's probably why we did.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lindsay. Props to you. Now, when it came to selling your house, tell me about that experience.
Well, we were new at selling. This is the first home that we were trying to sell. Mm-hmm. And so we really didn't know what to expect. But we know that Mark knows what he's doing.
Right.
That he's good at what he does. And so we trusted a lot in who he is and what he does. And so we left a lot up to him. But he was really good at including us and letting us know what he was planning on doing.
So 2 caveats with this. First of all is you have 2 kids at home, right?
Correct.
What ages?
3 and 10 months.
So imagine every time there's a showing, cleaning up your house from the destruction of a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, and all the crap that you accumulate when new kids come into your life too. And I literally mean crap. You know, there's just so much stuff. And so every time you had to have your house spotless and you had to move out for that time, regardless of nap times, regardless of other things. That must have been stressful.
It was, and even before that, to get our home show ready was a huge undertaking. Mark came in and he was just like, "Yeah, you need to get rid of half of this stuff." And so, trying to entertain a 3-year-old with half of the toys that he's had is things get really interesting.
Yeah.
But then even like, "Hey, we need to clean up really, really good today."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why am I going over to Gramps' house again?"
Yeah, right. The second piece that was fascinating is your house that you owned previously. Can I call it cookie cutter?
Very much.
You bought an entry-level house, which is what you do when you buy your first house, but there were literally dozens and dozens of houses like yours on the market.
Yes, and on our block.
Yep. That were all up for sale, right? And so the interesting strategy is that you had to find a way to get your house to be the one that people chose, right? And you can't change your location. You can't necessarily, you can't change the amenities of the house. So how did you guys manage to win in a battle when everybody else, they still have the for sale sign in their yard?
Well, a lot of it comes with dealing with places like Hatch Realty, who come in and they do amazing photography and they make sure that your house looks great online. Thank you, Tara. And just allowing that to do its work. But then it's also playing with the market and figuring out when to lower your price, if to lower your price, how to do that. And Mark was really good at navigating that.
So a guy like Mark sells 100 to 120 homes a year. So it's not his first rodeo, right?
No.
I can't imagine the stress if you had decided to work with someone who had never sold a house like yours before, or was inexperienced, or didn't know how to win in that kind of situation, because you probably still have all the crap in your house and you'd be living in the old place.
Probably.
Yeah, it could be. And it's a more complicated process than I think people give it credit for.
Very much so.
So when are you moving again?
Next week, I think.
Okay.
Or never.
Yeah, it's a bear of a process. My guess is you actually are in youth ministry to have free movers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. It was great because all of our leaders were able to help when we were moving all of our stuff from garage to garage, and that was a lot of really good help. And so thank you guys for helping out. It was awesome.
Brody, I'm going to give you final thoughts, and I want to plug Young Life. If people are out there listening and you have a heart for kids and a heart for Christ, what can they do to get involved with Young Life?
There's multiple ways you can get involved. There's getting involved with kids, getting into the world of kids as a leader. If you want to spend time with high school kids, you can do that and just connect with me. I'm sure Hatch will post some stuff of how they can do that. There's also giving. Things can't happen without money, and so we need people with big hearts who maybe aren't able to get into the world of kids but still want to help. And so you can do that by going to ylfm.younglife.giving.com, I believe is what it is.
That's lengthy. How about they just reach out to us at Hatch Realty? And
they can do that too, because I was probably wrong.
You forgot .com// double
hashtag.
forward hashtag ninja.
4.
Yeah. Brody Clark of Young Life Fargo-Moorhead and a happy Hatch Realty buyer and seller. Thank you for putting your trust in us. Thank you for the good you do in the community. And folks, I want you to go to livefargomoorhead.com right now. Find out what your home is worth and see some places that are for sale. This is Real Estate Radio with Erik Hatch.